Hi everyone, my name is Emily Teacher, and today I'm going to read The Wizard of Menlo Park. Like other cities and towns in the late 1800s, New York City was a gloomy place at night. Streets were lit by flickering gas lights, if they were lit at all. Oil lamps or candles were all that people had to illuminate their homes. Thomas Edison had a better idea. In 1881, he built the world's first electric power station in Manhattan. He helped change New York into the brilliantly lit city we know today. So we're talking a long time ago in the 1800s, where people only used oil lamps or candles to light up their homes and the streets. They didn't have all this electricity that we have now until Thomas Edison, right? He built this first electric power station in Manhattan and helped to change New York. So let's learn more about Thomas Edison. Edison was born in Ohio in 1847. When he was a small child, his family moved to Port Huron, Michigan. An attack of scarlet fever left him in delicate health. So, a sickness, right? He had a pretty bad sickness, scarlet fever. So, he was very weak. This worried his parents. They did not allow him to join in the boisterous games played at his school. The other children were not very tolerant of someone who stood apart from the rest or who was different, and young Edison had to suffer their taunts. His mother, who was a teacher, decided to take him out of school. She taught him at home, where he learned quickly. He asked many questions and liked to experiment on his own to find answers. At that time, much of Michigan was wilderness, but the railroad was transforming America by making even the most remote places accessible to the rest of the country. When the railroad came to Port Huron, it provided Edison with his first job. At the age of 12, he was given permission to sell newspapers and candy on the train that ran between his hometown and Detroit. He even printed his own newspaper, which he sold for 3 cents a copy. So finally, the railroad came to town, right? So Edison, who was only 12 years old, was able to start working and making his own money by just selling newspapers and candy on the train. At 16, he started working full-time on the railroad. For the next 4 years, he was employed as a telegraph operator in different towns. However, there were large portions of the day when he had nothing to do, and Thomas Edison hated to be idle. He did not like to be bored. In addition, he required only 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. So it was during this time, that he began working on inventions along with his experiments. So he did not like being bored. So while he was bored and had some downtime, he would start to work on inventions and experiments. At 21, he invented an electrical vote counter for which he was given a patent. So a patent. This means that the government identified him as the person who thought up the idea and protected it so that it could not be made or sold by others without his permission. So that's the point of getting a patent. So nobody else can use your idea and say that it was theirs. When he was 30, Edison established a research center at Menlo Park, New Jersey. There, he and his associates ran what was really an inventions factory. Over the next 5 decades, Edison was granted over 1,000 patents by the United States government. Perhaps his most famous invention was the electrical light bulb. Other inventions included the record player, which he called the phonograph, and the movie camera. These things seemed like magic to people. It isn't surprising that he became known as the Wizard of Menlo Park. The once sickly child outlived most of his schoolmates. When he died in 1931, he was 84 years old. So when he was young, he was very weak and sickly. People maybe thought he wasn't going to do much with his life. But by the time he had died, he had thousands, right? Over 1,000 patents from the United States government. So he made so many cool inventions that led to much other greater inventions in the future. Thank you for listening today. We do have links related to each video. If you want the link for this story, you can find it down in the description below.